Before I get into this video, I just want to remind every single one of you that if we get to 1,000 subs before the end of the year, I will play the 4 console Batman Arkham games on live stream in one day. So make sure you guys leave a thumbs up, make sure you guys subscribe for more, and without wasting any more of your time, let's get right into the video. A while back, I made a video ranking the 4 Batman Arkham games. However, now that we have Batman Arkham Shadow, and I have successfully completed the game, I thought it was only fair I go back and re-rank the top 5 Batman Arkham games. And who knows, maybe some of my opinions have changed now that I've played all the games over again. And before we get into the list, I just want to set my criteria for this list, because what you think is best could be very subjective. The most important thing for me overall is the campaign, because without an interesting story, you've got no foundation to work with, no matter how good the gameplay may be. For example, Batman Arkham Knight having the best combat and stealth doesn't mean the game is the best by default. The second most important thing for me is the gameplay itself, because that does play an important factor, especially when mixed in with a good story. The rest of it isn't as important. Things like side missions do matter, but all the games do have good and bad side quests, so I'm not going to make that a determining factor as to which Arkham game is better if they've all had good and bad side missions. And without wasting any more of your time, let's get right into the list.
Stand back, fool, I've got a bomb! Huh? All right.
At number 5, we have Batman Arkham Asylum. This entry is really tough for me, however, and to be honest, if you asked me a different day, I might give a different answer. But if we look at this game without the nostalgia involved and look at it for what this game is, it is the least detailed of the bunch, with the worst combat, but there is a good enough story to go along with it, and by no means is this game bad. You have an average Batman and Joker story in your hands, where Joker has broken loose and causes chaos, and Batman has to try to stop every single one of Joker's obstacles until he finally stops the Joker. That might sound like a knockoff, but honestly, it's not a knock at all. I actually enjoy the aspect of that story, making the first game of the franchise something for us to dip our toes into, to learn the basics of Batman lore before the franchise grows and we continue to learn more about Batman's rogues gallery. The developers knew that someone like me, who never knew or cared about Batman before, or even played a Batman video game or any sort of media for that matter, would learn to like and even love the character of Batman just by understanding how twisted of a relationship he has with the Joker, and how it would actually grow our interest into wanting to learn more about Batman. Outside of the Joker though, this game doesn't have much going for it. The gameplay was way ahead of its time though, to be fair, but nowadays has kind of aged significantly, and I can only describe the combat as average for 2024 standards. That isn't a knock on the game, that just goes to show how good of a job Rocksteady did to make improvements for the future games. While this game has its amazing qualities, it's gonna have to go at the number 5 spot for me.
Eat it, pussy.
Number 4, Batman Arkham Shadow. At first, I was gonna put this at number 5 originally, but in my opinion, this game had a better and more interesting story overall than Batman Arkham Asylum. Throughout the course of this game, all I was waiting to find out was who was the Rat King. I had that anticipation in me. The combat I found to be extremely engaging, and as someone who loves martial arts and combat sports in general, it made me love the combat even more. And getting up and also adding in that physical activity was not going to be a problem for me. I was not going to complain about that whatsoever. This game also added in a variety of different characters and villains that we either haven't seen or wanted to know where they went after Batman Arkham Origins. For example, seeing Harley Quinn again as Harleen Quinzel was interesting because you kind of come to understand how the Joker was able to manipulate her, right? She's one of those people that kind of feels bad for everybody. She's one of those people who believes that everybody can be helped, so it's kind of easy to see how the Joker was able to swoop her off her feet. An overall variety of villains in this game made it far more interesting for me. However, this game gets the number 4 spot due to this game not having open world or side quests. And while that may seem kind of nitpicky, not having that stuff can make or break the ranking of these games. Now, I want to clarify something. I know at the start I said it wasn't going to matter because the games had pretty good and bad side missions, but not having it at all does play a determining factor. But that doesn't mean that the game is bad. Part of me doesn't enjoy having to go undercover and playing as Irving Malone, but the other part of me enjoys the unique angle the game goes down. Having Bruce Wayne in prison would never work due to his billionaire status and could compromise his Batman identity. So while this game doesn't have an open world or side quests, this was overall a phenomenal game, and I did have a lot of joy playing it. And the only reason why I wouldn't want to go through it again and play it anytime soon is because the VR takes a lot out of you. Like, playing a game on the VR for an extended period of time is just very, very exhausting, and it really just hurts the head, so you can only really go through that once in a while.
No, Bruce! Don't leave me, please!
Number 3, Batman Arkham Knight. I used to have the idea that this game was the best of the franchise, and this game does have a lot of good qualities. You can tell Rocksteady put a lot of effort into the gameplay and the graphics specifically, an effort that we still haven't really seen from Rocksteady to this day. Like, yeah, Suicide Squad has some pretty good graphics, I guess, but even Batman Arkham Knight, in my opinion, shines more in that sort of regard. Rocksteady focused so much on the gameplay and graphics that they overlooked good basic storytelling. To be fair to Rocksteady, the marketing for this game did ruin a lot of the suspense, as we knew who the Arkham Knight was before we even went into it, and I think with better marketing, the story would be looked at better. However, even on a surface level, the story is just so bland. You spend more time with filler and unnecessary puzzle solving than actual action, and it gets boring relatively quickly. Especially when the Batmobile gets thrown into these puzzles, and it slows down the tension and the pacing of the plot. Scarecrow at least did do some real damage and released a fear cloud that completely submerged Gotham and even deteriorates Batman's physical and mental well-being. So it wasn't like Scarecrow did nothing the entire game. And I understand the whole idea of this game is to highlight Batman's mental state at this time, following the events of Batman Arkham City. This game wanted to demonstrate overcoming your fears is possible regardless of the obstacle, and anybody can pick themselves up when they're down, and I really like that message. So I can't say the plot was terrible, it was just kind of boring and forgettable. And to be honest, there wasn't really a whole lot of memorable moments outside of the big Batman's identity gets revealed at the end, at least not for me personally. The side missions were decent in this game, but a lot of forgettable ones once again, that are average, and honestly, I think the number 3 spot fits best for Batman Arkham Knight. I mean, when you look at something like the Deathstroke boss fight in Batman Arkham Origins, and then you look at it in Batman Arkham Knight, it's just not even comparable. I think a lot of Batman Arkham Knight focus too much on graphics and gameplay, and not as much on the story. And like I said earlier for the criteria, the most important part of telling a good game is having a good story with good characters.
There is no such thing as a Batman.
At the number 2 spot, I've put Batman Arkham Origins, the game that used to be seen as the worst by many people, and over the years is finally starting to get its dues and the recognition it deserves. And I've been saying it for a long time, just how good this game is. And don't get it mistaken, this and Arkham City are so neck and neck that tomorrow I could say Batman Arkham Origins is better, and you wouldn't even be wrong if you said that. Batman Arkham Origins is a fantastic game, showing a great story of a young man who holds a lot of anger in his life, someone who the cops can't stand and want to take out, whether it's Gordon because he wants to follow the law by the book, or Brandon because he wants the $50 million prize from the Joker. Batman has a $50 million bounty on his head, and he has to stop 8 assassins from killing him, from Black Mask, who later turns out to be the Joker. And I think that's the part of the reason why a lot of people didn't like this game. False marketing suggesting Black Mask is the main villain made a lot of people turned off from this game. However, I like the lesson that the game has to offer. Alfred thinks Batman is a man who's in over his head, and that he's a young man with a trust fund and too much anger. Batman's biggest issue, in my opinion, in this game is that he feels the need to do everything alone, and the lesson he learns is that he needs people to help him in order for him to be as successful as possible. And I think this was an important lesson for Batman to learn. Otherwise, eventually, he was going to run into an issue that he might not be able to get out of, and he might have even ended up dying as a result. The thing that holds this game back was there was essentially no improvement from Batman Arkham City. It could be slightly worse with some of the gameplay sometimes. The combat feels just a bit slower and clunkier, almost like the timing feels a bit funny, and the gadgets sometimes don't register. For example, the Disruptor can literally go through the slightest obstacle and will cause your shot to miss altogether. However, the complaints I have in this game can be forgiven by the awesomeness that the story has to offer. And the side missions of this game are very good, like the Deadshot one, and the very thorough crime scene investigation work was next level in this game. This game has a lot to offer, and it definitely could belong in the number 1 or number 2 spot, any day of the week.
That actually is pretty funny.
Which means the number one Batman Arkham game out of the entire franchise goes to Batman Arkham City. And I have given this game a lot of crap. I used to believe that this game was overrated. However, after replaying it, I've come to realize this game is the best in the franchise. This and Origins are the best games by far, and to be honest, it's not really that close. The story of this game is better than what I remember it being. I used to think of it was just chaotic and kind of almost like a goose chase, but to be honest, I think that's kind of the point. To show us that Batman isn't always as simple as chase one villain. Sometimes there's going to be chaos, and we're going to have to deal with multiple things at a time in order to stop said chaos. This game is pretty good for not having a lot of filler, outside of having to go for the jammers for the museum mission, but at least that does have action and thugs to take out. And the gameplay is amazing in this game. It has a really good balance of difficulty. It's not too easy, but it's not impossible. On top of that, this game holds 2 of the top 5 best boss fights in the entire franchise, with Ra's al Ghul and Mr. Freeze, respectively. But the main reason why this game gets number 1 for me is because I could sit here and play that game for hours and not get bored by the story or any of the side missions. And that's the most important thing. If you enjoy something, that matters more than the gameplay or the story itself. And I find myself wanting to come back to this game the most, especially recently, and play it more often. People may say this game's overrated, but for me, this is almost my comfort game. The game I turn to when I don't really feel like playing online against other people, and I just want to have a relaxing overall experience. So boys, there you have it. Having re-ranked the Batman Arkham games in the correct order, that I don't plan on changing unless a new Arkham game releases, and honestly, I have a lot of love and appreciation for these games, and I mean this channel is mostly known for my Batman Arkham videos, so I have these games and you guys to thank for the overwhelming support that you guys give me. And if you enjoyed, please leave a thumbs up and comment your favorite Batman Arkham game down in the comments below. And make sure you guys subscribe too. The sooner we get to 1,000 subs, the sooner you'll watch me play the 4 console Arkham games in a day. And thank you guys so much again for the support. I appreciate every single one of you. Take it easy, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace!